I'm going to turn off the video now that we're here. Okay, so this is a reminder, Class Connect sessions are recorded and distributed for learning purposes that are listed here. As always, remember to be respectful, appropriate, and you are participating, but please don't share personal information during the session for your own safety reasons. Okay, so if you are in the live session, you should have your attendance ticket open. All right, so I have the link in the chat box along with the password to that. Again, you have to be in the live session. If you're not in the live session and you're just watching the recording, the password is not included in the recording. But remember, attendance is 10% of your grade. Again, you have to be in the live class. Give me a green check if we're good on the attendance ticket. We have it open and ready to go. I believe you should only see one question today. The attendance ticket is super short because we are doing our first lab, so I wanted to focus on our lab and not be all over the place today. Awesome, seeing those green checks, love it. Perfect. Okay, let's keep on going. So, schedule-wise, remember this is my contact information, and today we are working on the drop and bounce lab. It's a virtual lab, so you don't have to do anything at home. You're perfectly welcome to go and find some different balls laying around your house and drop them and bounce them and see how they drop and bounce. But it is a virtual lab, okay? All right, so today's unit, we are looking at Unit 1, Matter and Energy. We've talked about the scientific method. We talked about the relationship between matter and energy. So now we're going to actually do a lab and show what we know. So our purpose for today, we should be able to design an experiment based on a hypothesis. Hey, that's Mommy's keyboard. Play with your own keyboard. We should be able to analyze data from an experiment by graphing that data. And we should be able to observe the interaction between matter and energy in an experiment, a virtual experiment, that involves golf balls, rubber balls, and clay balls. All right. If you're just joining us, the ticket and password are in the chat box. Okay, Jenna, please email me that so I know that, and I can go ahead and get that straightened out for you, okay? If you need to leave. Oh, it's okay, Steve. You're good. All right, so today the question that we are looking at is how does drop height affect, how does drop height affect bounce height? So how does where we drop an object from affect how it bounces? Okay, so remember from yesterday we talked about how matter and energy interact, right? So here we can see that the soccer player and the soccer ball, they are both made of matter, right? They're made of atoms, they have mass, they're made of a substance, right? And they can also transfer energy between themselves, right? So when the soccer player's head hits the soccer ball, it transfers energy to the ball to allow that ball to move. All right, so that is the interaction between matter and energy. Smiley faces, thumbs up, LOLs if all of that makes sense. Let me make sure we understand where we're going today. Perfect, okay. So now we're going to be doing a lab today. So our lab days, they're all set up pretty similarly. So we go through the scientific method as we do our lab. So the scientific method, remember, this is how we investigate the world around us. The steps are right here. We make observations, we ask questions, we form a hypothesis, which is basically a educated guess towards answering our question. From there, we can design and perform an experiment. The experiment gives us data that we can gather and analyze, and based on our data, we can draw a conclusion, whether or not our data disproves our hypothesis or supports our hypothesis. If it disproves our hypothesis, that means that we have to go back and change our hypothesis so that we can redo this process. If it supports our hypothesis, then we can communicate those results to the wider scientific world so that people can learn from what we learn. Although in our group, that's going to be a much smaller audience. Okay, so first things first, again, you already have your attendance ticket open, but I am going to actually have you open your lab report at the same time. Okay, so this is going to get a little bit tricky. You're going to have two tabs open. Sorry guys, one moment. Okay, you're going to have two different tabs open. Okay. All right, Kim, always make sure that you just wait until we do the attendance ticket together. You shouldn't be finishing it early. You should just do it with us, okay? But not a big deal. All good if you were able to get it right now. Okay, so here is the link to the lab. All right, so you're going to open up that lab. You should have two things open. You should have your attendance ticket open, and you should have your lab open in different windows or different tabs. Okay, give me a green check once you have that open, a red X if you're having a problem opening that. Make sure you click Start Quiz so that it actually opens up the lab. Okay, it's not actually a quiz, but it is in the quiz format, so make sure you click Start Quiz. Awesome, no problem, Theodore. Green checks all around, please, as you get that open. Again, link is in the chat box. Awesome. Adrian, Ariana, Ash, Audrey, Brianna. Let me get green checks from you. Ciara, Dalen, Dolly, Jaden, Jeremy, Johnny, Kim. Yes, the 1C lab. Exactly. We are in the 1C lab. Perfect. Yeah, thanks for helping out, Sally, in the chat box. I appreciate it. Maya, Melissa, green checks, please. Alexa off. I know, that's because I didn't say your name. Steve and Theodore, green checks, please. Stephen, the attendance quiz, let me get the links for you for that. Sorry, I know you came in a little bit late, so let me get that for there. No worries. It's always under the unit that we're working in. So if we're working in Unit 1, it's always under Unit 1 in the Content tab. But no worries, it's right there for you. Perfect. Okay, thank you guys. So here's the thing. After each slide that we go over the lab information, you will get 1 minute to work on that question. So you can use that 1 minute to type your full answer. You can use that 1 minute to type some notes to yourself. Or if you are a slow typer, you can use that 1 minute to take a picture or a screenshot with the screenshot function on your computer, okay? But you have to do one of those, okay? And I'm not going to give you more time than that. You can always watch the recording later, but we really need to get through today's stuff. Smiley faces if that makes sense. So if you're a fast typer, type your answer. If you're a medium typer, type some notes. If you're a slow typer, just take a picture. Okay, perfect. All right, let's go ahead and get in here. So I want to know, what are the 5 senses that we use to make observations? Tell me in the chat box. You can see some hints here in the form of pictures. What are the 5 senses that we use to make observations? Yes, first one definitely is sight. Yes, seeing. Yes. What else do we see here? Yes, there is hearing. I see that one popping up. Yep, we can taste for sure. There is touch. Yep, and then that middle one right there is smell. Perfect. So those are the 5 senses that we use to make observations. Now, we aren't in person right now, so most of your observations today are going to be through sight. But if you were in person doing an experiment, you would have many more observations besides just sight. But let me go ahead and share this video with you so that we can see our we're going to make some observations right now that's going to set us up for our lab today. Okay, so link to the videos in the chat box. I'm also going to put it on your whiteboard. Please give me a green check when you finish watching the link. Jeremy, do you see it popping up on your screen? I also shared the link on the screen, so you should see it on the... Okay, try copy pasting it right there. Try to maybe highlight it with your mouse, copy it, and then paste it. All right, guys, green checks if you have finished watching the video of the soccer ball bouncing. Awesome. Oh, that's weird, Ash. Okay, well, it's basically of a soccer ball bouncing, so just think about what happens when a soccer ball bounces. Yeah, it might be something in your browser might be trying to block it. Awesome, guys. So here's what I want you to do, though. In the chat box, tell me what were some observations that you made as that ball bounced. What was happening with that ball? Tell me in the chat box. What are some things that we noticed as that ball was bouncing? Yeah, so it went up and down, right? It was getting lower definitely as it went. Yeah, it slowed down, right? It went from bouncing high to bouncing lower. Yep. Absolutely. And what did you guys notice about each, like the first bounce versus the second bounce, right? So the height of the first bounce versus the second height, what would happen there? Yeah, it just wasn't as strong, right? What about versus where it got dropped from? Was the first bounce as high as where we dropped it from? Was it lower than where we dropped it from? Was it higher than where we dropped it from? What do you guys think? Tell me in the chat box. So when you drop a ball, does it bounce back up higher than where you dropped it from? If you just drop it, not like you're throwing it down. Yeah, no. So when you just drop a ball, right, it bounces back a little lower, right? Smiley faces if that makes sense. Bounces back just a little bit lower. Yeah, because it's losing a little bit of energy to the ground. Awesome. So every time we saw that it bounced back a little bit lower until it finally lost all of its energy. Good. All right, so what questions can we ask about dropping the ball? If you remember what the question was in the mind map, we can be asking that question. But tell me in the chat box, what questions? I will tell you what to do in a moment, Ash. Don't worry. Remember, I'll give you a minute after each slide so that you can get stuff done in your lab. But what questions can we ask about dropping a ball? Yeah, maybe why does it slow down? What else could we ask? Tell me in the chat box. Yeah, how do you get it to maintain its speed, right? Why doesn't it jump as high? Yep, exactly. What about maybe what we're going to be looking at today is we're going to be looking at how, depending on where it starts, how high it goes back up, right? So where it starts, how high does it return to? Okay, smiley faces if all of that makes sense. All of these questions and observations. Perfect. Okay, so here's what you need to do. In your lab, this first step goes over question number 1. This second step goes over question number 2. Please use complete sentences. Okay, you'll notice that I did not write complete sentences, so if all you type in there is a bunch of words, I will not give you points. You will get a 0 on these questions. So you have to write it in a complete sentence, and you have to write it in your own words. Okay, so use these as ideas, but write what your observations were and what your questions are. Okay, give me a green check once you have that done. You've either written your answers or you have taken a picture. Again, you only get 1 minute. Ready, get set, go. Green checks once you have finished or you have taken a picture. I really recommend taking pictures, guys. Okay, Sophia, do you have your lab report open? Okay, yeah, it'll be less confusing once you have your lab open. Okay, I can share that with you on the whiteboard as well. Sorry guys, I'm going to go ahead and actually pause our time right here, just because I don't want anyone to be confused. I'm going to share this right here. Okay, yeah, no problem, Sophia. As long as you're able to make it back here, we can get it figured out. Okay, so when we are in our 1C lab, again, I just sent you that link, Sophia. You'll open up that link and this is what you'll see. You can take a picture with your phone or you can take a screenshot. There's a button on your computer that's called print screen. It looks like this. And when you click on that, it copies everything on your screen and you can paste it into another document. So you could paste it into a Word document so you have that. Don't forget the recording will also be posted. So once the recording's up, you can also just look at the recording and pause the recording when you need it. Okay, so I'm going to go down, click Start Quiz to open up the lab, Sophia, and we are currently in question number 1 and 2. So question number 1 says, what observations did we make while watching the soccer ball bounce? So we just went over a bunch of those. Make sure you write your answer in a complete sentence. And then question number 2 was, what questions do we have about our observations? So we would fill that in right here. And there are sentence starters right here for you guys to make your life easier. Okay, smiley faces if you understand what you're doing. And then green checks, guys, once you have 1 and 2 saved or you have taken a picture. Awesome. I'm going to restart our timer. 25 more seconds, guys. Kim, you should not copy anything word for word. Okay, you need to put it into your own words and using complete sentences. Okay, so obviously you can use the word lower or you can use the word bounce or that stuff, but it needs to be, yeah, exactly. So what we're going over in class, that's what you should be putting into your answers. Awesome, guys. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. Again, you should have taken a picture of this or the recording will be posted and you can go back to it in the recording. But we can't spend too much time because we only have 45 minutes for class. So again, here's what we've looked at so far, right? We've made an observation about when we drop a ball, it bounces back up. And our question here is, does the height at which we drop that ball affect how high it bounces back? Right, so let's go ahead and make an educated guess or a possible answer, a hypothesis. So let's say that we have if we're increasing, okay, if we're increasing drop height, do you think that the bounce heights will get better or get worse? Tell me in the chat box. If every single time I drop a ball, I drop it from a higher height, do you think that first bounce is going to be getting better or getting worse? Yeah, exactly. So bounce heights will get better, right? Will they ever actually be higher than my drop height? Will they ever actually be higher than my drop height? Right, so they'll get better, but not higher than the drop height, right? Smiley faces if that makes sense. If we increase a drop height, the bounce height will improve. Yeah, exactly. You would have to actually throw it and chuck it at the ground. Exactly. You guys got it. Okay, perfect. So this is number 3. I'm going to give you a minute. Again, put it in your own words. This is not even a complete sentence. So if you just put it in a complete sentence that makes sense, you will have it in your own words. So you guys have a minute. Green checks when you've taken a picture or you have saved number 3. Green checks when you have taken a picture or saved number 3. Haley, we will be doing the attendance quiz. There's only one question on it today and it's not on this slide. Just hold off on that for a moment. Right now we're just working on the lab report. Excellent. Okay, so green checks please. Adrian, Serenity please. Ash, Audrey, Dalen, Dolly, Haley, Jake, Jaden, Jeremy, Johnny, Kim, Maya, Melissa, Michael, Steven, Tyson. Kim, this one should actually be in the form of a statement because it's actually a answer. All right, hypotheses are just answers that we're not sure if they're the correct answer yet. So you will want to put it into the form of a statement. Good question. All right, guys, I see most of you have taken pictures or you have saved number 3, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. So here's a hypothesis, right? If the ball is dropped from a higher height, it's going to bounce back better, right? It's not going to bounce back higher, but the higher height we get, the better the bounces, right? Okay, so in this case, remember we talked about independent and dependent variables. The independent variable is what we have the freedom to change. So what we're in charge of will we change at the start of the experiment. So tell me in the chat box, what can I change at the start of the experiment? The drop height or the bounce height? The drop height or the bounce height? Yeah, I'm in charge of the drop height, right? I am in charge of the drop height. Excellent. So the dependent variable, that's what we're going to be measuring at the end. That's the data we actually want. So what is the dependent variable? What are we looking at the end of the experiment? We start with drop height, we end with, yeah, we're going to end with the bounce height. Perfect. Okay, please fill out number 4. This one should be pretty quick. Okay, got 1 minute. This is the only one you can actually just copy these word for word because the sentence is already written for you. So these ones, just copy it word for word, give me a green check when it's saved or you've taken a picture. Yeah, or it hitting someone, exactly. Yes, Adrian, this one it's fine for you to copy those words because the sentence is already there for you. So you really just need to copy the words to finish the sentence. I'm totally fine with that. Perfect. Okay, let's keep on going, guys. All right, so let's make sure we understand this. You have your whiteboard tools. Please draw some lines between the term and the definition. We just learned about all 4 of these. Let's make sure that we understand them. Get your answers on the whiteboard. You have your whiteboard tools. Go, go, go. Use that line tool. It's the third one up from the bottom. Third one up from the bottom. All right, and we're pausing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Kim. Yeah, that can be really annoying. I used to have some neighbors that used to play really loud music, and that was really difficult when I was teaching. Okay, let me go ahead. I'm going to grab my red pen tool here. So let's look at this observation. Looks like we mostly agreed with this. Observation is when we use our 5 senses to gather information about the world. Absolutely. The hypothesis, yes, that's an educated guess or a possible answer to a question that we have. The independent variable, remember independent meaning like freedom. This is the one we have the freedom to change at the start of an experiment. And the dependent variable, that's the other one that we're measuring at the end of the experiment. Excellent job. All right, this is your only attendance ticket item. So go ahead, go back to your attendance ticket. All right. fill this one out, and then you should be able to submit your attendance ticket and close that out. So you should just have only the lab open. Keep the lab open. You guys have about 30 seconds to work on that. Green checks when we have submitted the attendance ticket. Red X's if we're having problems. Dolly, that is the lab report. Okay, we're currently in the attendance ticket. Okay, remember you should have 2 assignments open. So go to your attendance ticket and fill out the attendance ticket. Okay, Adrian, if you already submitted your attendance ticket, you should be good. Oh, Michael, lucky you. Yeah, they're all randomized, so sometimes they do end up in order. Okay, Jeremy, make sure you use a capital D. Make sure you spell it correctly. Yep, submit that attendance ticket. Keep the lab open. Yeah, you can retake everything up to 5 times, Zoe, so don't worry. Okay, guys, I'm going to keep on going. If you're having issues, I can go back to it, but I really want to get us started on the actual lab here. Okay? So keep in mind, right, our hypothesis, if we drop from a higher height, then it's going to bounce back better. Drop height is what we start with. The bounce height is what we're actually measuring. So as we fill out our data table, we're going to be filling in a bunch of bounce heights. Okay, this is the data that we're looking at today. So here's the table you're going to be filling out. Okay, you can see, again, we already know drop height because this is what we're choosing to change. And then each time we do each different type of ball, we are going to be seeing how high it bounces back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give you the link. Sorry, can you hear me, Steve? What was the question? Okay, Angelina, you'll need to go back and double check that you have your answers correct. Okay, as long as you have the password, you can do a retake for it. It's totally fine. Yes, it is, with a capital D. Okay, so let me go ahead and give you the link here. All right, so there's the link to the virtual lab. You can open that up and you will see the virtual lab that allows you to do all of the different drops for the balls. Okay, so here's what's going to happen now. I'm going to actually go ahead and I'm going to be giving you a video to watch because I have found that if I try to do it in person, everybody has questions, and if one person gets lost, it totally derails the entire lesson. So instead, I always make videos of the lab instructions so that you can follow along at your own pace. Okay, give me a thumbs up if that makes sense to you, thumbs down if you're confused. Shh, 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 shh. Okay, I'm going to be giving you a video that goes through how to use the lab and how to do questions number 5, 6, and 7. So the most important thing here though, guys, is you do need to have a Google account. Okay, give me a green check if you already have a Google account, red X if you don't. Okay, it's not a big deal if you don't, it's super easy to make one. Okay, awesome. So yeah, Daylin, if you don't have a Google account, you're just going to go to this link and you're going to go ahead and sign up for a Google account. Same with you, Sophia. We do use our Google account for every single lab, so it's really important that you have one and that you remember your username and password. Dolly, the video is going to tell you what link to paste for number 5. I'm so sorry, guys. Hold on one moment. Okay. Yeah, the video is going to show you how to do number 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so once you see the video, it'll all make sense. Okay, so what I want you guys to do, make sure you watch the instructions first. Don't try to do it at the same time because when you try to do 2 things at once, it can get a little bit confusing. Okay, so please, please, please make sure that you actually watch the video first. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and get you the video here. Yeah, I'm sending it right now. Hold on, Sierra. Sorry, I'm just getting the link. Okay, so here's the link to that. All right, I'm going to also put it on the whiteboard, and then we're going to come back. You're not going to be able to finish the video, so you'll have to finish it on your own time, just so that you can go through it and do the lab all on your own. But we're going to come back here at 12:43 so that we can wrap up. Okay, smiley faces if that makes sense. You do not need to make a new account. You can use your own Google account if you already have one. Don't make a new one. Only make one if you've never had a Google account. Awesome. Okay, so again, here is the video for how to do the lab. I'm going to go ahead and share this on the whiteboard as well. And you guys can go ahead and get started. Again, we will come back at 12:43. Thanks, guys. If you have questions, I'll be in the chat box. Hello students, so at this point we are at question step number 5 for our lab report. So here are the instructions for how to use the virtual lab and how to complete your data and your graph. So first things first, you do need a Google account. Please make sure you go to accounts.google.com /sign up and sign up. It only takes 30 seconds if you don't already have a Google account. Make sure if you do need to create a new Google account, save your username and your password, since we will use this all quarter for every single one of our labs, of which we have about 9 of them, so you don't want to have to make 9 different Google accounts. Please watch this recording in the instructions, instructions recording first and then begin the lab on your own. It's very confusing if you try to do them both at the same time, so watch first and then do it later. So what you're going to do is you are going to go to docs.google.com /spreadsheets, again, once you have your Google account. And we are going to go ahead and create a new spreadsheet. We're also going to be opening up the virtual lab. So the link to the virtual lab is also here. So you'll want to make sure you have both of those open. And click Begin the Lab, put on your gloves, and then click Start Lab, or Start, okay? And once this loads, you'll be able to see we have a bunch of different types of balls here. We also have a big ruler right here that's going to be used in our experiment. Alright, so first things first though, we do need to start filling out our Google Sheet so that we have that before we start working in our lab. So what we're going to do is we are going to click on where it says blank right here with the plus sign to add a new spreadsheet. So click on that. From there you are going to title it, and so your title right here is going to be Drop and Bounce Lab, and you are going to make sure to type your name here. Okay, that way I'm able to tell whose lab it is. Just makes it a little bit easier for me when I'm grading it. From here, you are going to then type in your data table. So let me go ahead and show over here your data table. So this is our data table that we're going to be filling out. So the first column needs to be drop height in centimeters. So make sure you write the cm for centimeters. Our next column is going to be the golf ball. The third column will be the rubber ball, and the last column will be the clay ball. Okay, don't worry about where it says bounce height. We will be adding that to our graph after we've actually created the graph. Now underneath the drop height, we already know what heights we will be dropping from, so we can already fill these in. We'll drop from 0 centimeters, 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100 centimeters. Now, really important, do not put any letters in here. It should only be numbers. So that's why we put the centimeters up here in the label. We're not putting centimeters next to the numbers. If you put anything next to the numbers, you will not be able to make your graph, and it won't look correct, and you won't get points for it. So make sure you only have numbers in this part of the graph. Let me go ahead and type that in here very quickly so that we remember that. Oops, sorry, I'm going to type that over here. Okay, so only use numbers in there. Another thing that's really important is please do not use my data. Okay, first off, your lab might make your balls work a little bit differently than mine, so you should end up with different data, but also most of my data table is going to be fake data. Okay, so please don't use my data because I will be able to tell that you did not do your own work because it's not going to be real data. Okay, so from here what I'm going to do, I have my table here ready. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go over to my lab right here. Okay, so for my lab, I'm going to be looking at the golf ball, the rubber ball, and the clay ball. So the golf ball right here is going to be this bigger white one. All right, the rubber ball is this blue one, and then the clay ball is the yellow and pink one. Okay. Now you can go up here and you can actually zoom in, which I find makes it a little bit easier to tell what I'm doing. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we are going to grab each ball and we're going to be dropping them from the heights that we said we were going to based on our table. Okay, so first off, the golf ball needs to be dropped from 0, which amazingly it does not bounce when it gets dropped from 0. So we can see right in here, 0. Now for the rubber ball, same thing. Let's move this and grab the rubber ball. Rubber ball, we're going to bounce from 0, which again, it doesn't bounce. So I'm going to enter 0 into my table underneath rubber ball in the line that we are dropping from 0 height. And then for the last one, the clay ball also drops from 0, does not move, so underneath clay ball in the line that says we dropped from 0, I will say that it also bounced 0 centimeters. Okay, without actually writing centimeters, just 0. Then we're going to do this from 20 centimeters. So you can see here our next line, we need to drop from 20 centimeters. So our golf ball, I'm going to line up the bottom of the golf ball from 20 centimeters. Okay, we're always measuring from the bottom of each ball. So the bottom of the golf ball goes up against 20 centimeters. I'm going to drop it. And it bounced back up to about 12 centimeters. Again, your data may be different, so please do not use my data, use your own data. Then we'll do that with the rubber ball. Drop it from the bottom being lined up against 20. And that one bounced up to about 11. Oops. Uh-oh. Come back, come back. Now the clay ball also dropped from 20. That one didn't bounce, so I'm just going to say 0 for that line. Okay, and then you'll do the same thing for every other one. So I'll show you one more example, but after that you will need to be able to do this on your own. So let me zoom out a little bit here. If you find you're having a hard time seeing, you can also try to zoom in with your browser. So even if this zoom doesn't work, you can zoom in with your browser and that can be helpful. Okay, so golf ball is being dropped from 40, right here. And so that one for me bounced up to about 26. Again, I'm filling out the dropping from 40 now. So underneath golf ball, it bounced up to about 26. Do the rubber ball from 40, line it up against the bottom. And that one for me went up to about 23. Again, use your own data. And then the clay ball from 40 did not bounce, so I'm going to put 0 in there. Okay, so at this point you should be able to do the rest of your measurements from 60, 80, and 100, right? So you'll do 60 next, and then you'll do 80. You don't need to highlight these like I'm doing it. I'm just trying to make it look more obvious to you. And then you'll do 100. Okay, so do each line, do each ball. Okay. Now we can see this here. Again, you might need to zoom out so you can do it from 60, then 80, then 100 for each type of ball. Shouldn't take very long. Now, once you do have your data, which I'm going to fill the rest of this in with fake data. Okay. Once we have the rest of our data, which again, this is fake data, please don't use this, we are going to go ahead and make our graph. Okay, so the instructions on how to make your graph are in the lab report. I do have those pasted there, right here. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to highlight all of the data. So you need to start at where it says drop height and make sure you highlight every single number. If you don't highlight every single number, you're going to miss some of your data. So all of your data, the titles and the numbers should be highlighted. So just click and drag. Once you have all of that highlighted, you're going to go to where it says insert, go down to where it says chart, and now a chart will pop up. You should see 3 colors. Okay, you should see, oops, sorry, I wanted to do that differently. You should be able to see blue, red, and yellow. Okay, so each of our balls right here. Okay, now this is in the wrong format. I don't want a bar graph. I actually want a scatter plot. So I'm going to go to where it says column chart, click on that, scroll down, and click on where it says scatter. So now this looks correct. This is what we actually want. We want the dots. From there, we do need to correct some of the titles here. So underneath where it says chart and axes titles, we're going to go to where it says chart title. The title text actually needs to be bounce height versus drop height. All right, the dependent variable goes first here. So what we graphed on the y-axis goes first here. Then we're going to change the horizontal axis title, make sure that it says drop height in centimeters, which mine already says that. And then click on that again and change it to vertical axis. Your vertical axis should be bounce height in centimeters. And now we can see that pop up. Make sure you include the units centimeters. If you don't include the units centimeters, you won't get points for these. You have to make sure you include those. The next thing is we do need to have a trend line. So to do the trend line, we're going to go down to where it says series and check mark where it says trend line, and we should see some lines pop up that go close to our dots. They might not perfectly line up with your dots. They probably shouldn't line up perfectly with your dots. So as long as the trend line is mostly accurate, that's what we need. Now for one of our questions, question number 7 here, question number 7 here, we are going to be able to need to see the rubber ball at 120 centimeters drop height to predict how high it would bounce. So you can see right here that I can't actually see the drop height of 120 centimeters yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to where it says grid lines. And under vertical axis, I'm going to change the major grid line count from auto to 10. And then I'm going to change this to the horizontal axis. Sorry, I don't know why this is not doing that right now. Okay, yeah, so the horizontal axis, I'm going to change that one to 10 as well. Okay, so now we can see much more of our line here, and we can see drop height of 120, which we're going to need when we get to question number 7. Okay, so we can make this a little bit bigger just so I can see it. All right, and now my data table and my graph is complete, and I can go ahead and get the link for this. Okay, so in this box right here, you're going to be pasting the link to this document. Do not paste the URL from the top here. If you try to give me the URL from the top here, I won't be able to see it. You will get a 0 on it, and you don't want to get a 0. This is worth about half the lab. So instead, you're going to go to Share, click Get Shareable Link, click where it says Copy Link, and then that's all you need to paste into here. So into your box, you're going to paste that. So Control V on PCs, I think it might be Command V on Macs, or you can right click and paste to get that in here. And then just save that. And that is all you need to submit for number 5. As long as this is completely filled out, you'll get your points here. Okay. Now, question number 6 is going to ask, did our data support or disprove our hypothesis? We do need to make sure we include actual numbers. So right here, you should be able to say my hypothesis was supported or my hypothesis was disproven. Okay, so for example, if we see that as we drop from higher heights, the bounce heights get higher, then we would be able to say that this was supported, since our hypothesis said that as drop height goes higher, our bounce height should also be better, right? So that would be supported. If we see from our data that as we drop from higher heights, the bounce height gets lower and gets worse, then we would say that this is disproven. Okay, so far though, based on the little data I've gotten from here, I do see a trend that this is going to be increasing for the golf ball and the rubber ball. Okay, the clay ball didn't seem to be increasing, so if that disproves your hypothesis, you should mention that the clay ball was an exception. Okay. Now, the way that you are going to write your results is you do need to include actual numbers, right? So you should be able to say that, for example, as the golf ball went from being dropped at 20 centimeters to 40 centimeters, the bounce height went from, in my case, it went from 12 centimeters to 26 centimeters, which proves that the bounce height got better or improved. Okay, something like that. Don't copy what you see here. Okay, you can use similar wording, but please do not copy this word for word. Okay, and then you'll talk about the rubber ball and talk about the clay ball as well. Talk about how your data, how the actual numbers from your graph prove your hypothesis. Okay, you don't have to use every single number in your data, but you do need to use some of the numbers enough to prove your results here. Okay. Lastly, question number 7 asks you to use your trend lines to predict the bounce height of the rubber ball if it's dropped from a height of 120 centimeters. So you can see here that for my rubber ball is in red. Yours might be different, so make sure you take a look at what color your rubber ball line is. So for mine, my rubber ball line is in red. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay attention to where it got dropped from. Okay, so it's saying here, if we drop from 120 centimeters, where would it go next? Okay, so let me go ahead and get this copied so that I can draw on this. All right, so to make a prediction, what you are going to need to do, To make a prediction, what you are going to need to do is you're going to look at where we dropped, where it wants you to drop from. Okay, so imagine we drop from 120. You're going to go all the way up to the rubber ball line, which in my case is the red line. And once you're here, Okay, that's the data point we're interested in. We're going to look to the left, and wherever we land on the left, that is my predicted bounce height, right? Because over here on the left, that's bounce height. So my predicted bounce height in my situation would be 60 centimeters. Okay, again, yours will probably be different. Do not use my data. My data is fake. Okay, so in my case though, I'm predicting that it's going to be 60 centimeters. Right, so I would write here that mine would have a predicted height of 60 centimeters. This is fake data. This is wrong. Don't copy this. Okay, I know for a fact that 60 centimeters is too little, so if I see 60 centimeters, I know that you will have just copied the data. Don't copy. Okay, and then you'll save that, and then you will be able to submit your quiz. So you'll go to submit, click submit. Make sure you click it until it's actually completely submitted. Keep in mind that I do need to grade this by hand, so you won't see it change from a 0 to an actual grade until I have hand graded it. So give me 24 hours to make sure that it gets graded. Okay? Thank you guys, and we will go back to the class and finish up the rest of class. Sorry guys, so I know that we are almost done with class. I know you haven't finished the video unless for some reason your video is on like ×3 speed. But we do need to go ahead and wrap up class. For every lab, you'll have to do the instruction part of the lab on your own. So that's always like an extra 20 minutes of work or so. But it's not a big deal. Just finish it up later and just make sure it gets turned in by 4 o'clock today. Okay, smiley faces if that makes sense. Smiley faces if that makes sense. Awesome. Okay, so today we are able to do an experiment, a hypothesis, get data, analyze the data. Steven, it's really just watch the video, and the video, you're really just typing in a few things, and I do go over how to do every single part of the graph. So it's basically a tutorial. Yeah, so this is going to be the rest of your homework for today, Angelina, is just to finish up the lab. Okay, so finish using that video and make sure you finish the lab. Okay, so at this point your attendance ticket should be submitted. Make sure you save everything in your lab so far so that you can finish up your lab and submit it later. Okay? All right, perfect guys. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you later. If you have any questions, put them in the chat.